I mentioned several things. Today I am going to mention one of the things that supports ignorance is, I said, asava, uh, influxes. I want to mention a discourse that you all might read later on. I'm going to give you the summary of that discourse, which you find in Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 2. It is so important that the compilers of the sutras put that as number 2. Number 1, Mula Pariyaya, the root of all existence. Then is the method of or system of all cankers, defilements, influxes, called asava. So Buddha start Sabba Mula Sabbasava Sutta, that the sutta name Sabbasava. All asavas. As I said, asavas are the supporting factor of ignorance. So ignorance itself doesn't exist by itself. Ignorance also has a cause, truth, a factor that supports ignorance. In Sutta number 9, Samadhiti Sutta, Venerable Sariputta at the end, Samadhiti Sutta has 16 stages. The last one is ignorance, avidya, samudaya, asava samudaya, avidya samudayo. Asava nirodha, avidya nirodho. Avidya samudaya, asava samudayo. Avidya nirodha, asava nirodho. These two are interdependent, supporting each other. That means ignorance depends on influxes, asava. Asava depends on ignorance. They are mutually supporting factors. So now we want to focus this morning's talk on how to asava nirodha, means cessation of influxes, asava. Asava is a kind of intoxicant. As I mentioned, asava means that which is, in Sanskrit, ashrava, that which is brewed for a long time underground, and then we take it out. It is used as medicine. Sometimes when you brew certain other things, you can drink it to get intoxicated. This is a kind of intoxication. This is not a medicine. Asava here means intoxicant. The root of intoxication is asava. Okay? Now, when we get rid of them, then ignorance will disappear, because asava is the supporting factor of ignorance. How to get rid of them? If we start with one. There are 7 ways given in Sabbasava Sutta. Number 1 is called in Pali Dassana Pahatabba. Atibhikkhave asava dassana pahatabba. Because there are influxes to be overcome by insight, vision. Dassana means seeing. We have to overcome it by seeing. Seeing very clearly, without any biases or prejudice. Very clearly, impartially seeing, we can overcome. For instance, if we don't see clearly, somebody might think, was I in the past? How was I in the past? What was I in the past? What having been, what have I become in the past? And in the future, in the present, one would think, am I? Am I not? What am I? Who am I? Where did I come from? Where would I go after? And then in future, shall I be? Shall I not be? How shall I be? What shall I be? Where shall we go? Where shall I go from there to in future? Now, in each case, a person thinks in terms of I, thinking, have I been in the past? Meaning, the person thinks that there was an I, unchanging, permanent, eternal I. As long as the person has that, ignorance is right there. On the one hand, the person does not know whether the person was in the past or not, what he was and so on. On the other hand, he always refers to some permanent entity that continued from past to the present and into the future. And this is wrong view. And Asa builds up more and more conceptual proliferation builds up, papancha builds up. The person will be overwhelmed with all kind of thoughts, always rushing into his mind, flooding his mind. He will be inundated with these thoughts, all the time thinking, I. In fact, friends, when we listen to conversation between two people or few people, the most used word is this one single letter, I. Of course, we have to use it in order to communicate, but using I to represent our permanent eternal ego or unchanging entity is supported by this influx. And because of ignorance, we use it. If we use it with understanding that this is what we have to do in order to communicate, that's okay. Because even Buddhas and Arahants, they had to, they not overcome what you call Loka Samanya, Loka Panyati, Loka Nirutti, the world usage of words, concepts, ideas are important. Even the Buddhas use them, Arahants use them. So in the same sense, anybody can use them. But if somebody uses this with the thought, belief that it is something permanently existing, that is the that comes from ignorance. So that is to be overcome by seeing as it clearly, as it is, as it is. How can we see this? How can we see this does not exist? Friends, you may be tired of listening to this over and over again. We can overcome that only when we are very clear in our understanding of impermanence. Understanding of impermanence. This is the teaching I emphasize every day. Don't get bored, don't get tired, don't get upset with me. I think I mentioned this for you to think that everything is impermanent. Okay? And then when one actually gains this awareness, this understanding, perfectly well, that is the time the person attains the stream entry. Because in the stream entry, first thing the person would overcome would be notion of self called Sat Kaya Ditti. Sat means is, Ditti means view, Kaya means body. That means the view that they are that the body is a self. So when he sees, he or she sees with very clear insight, deep concentration, the person definitely sees impermanence most clearly and liberate the mind from that notion, entering the stream entry path. Okay, with this, I want to start our morning session. That we did already. So, and then Karaniya Sutta, Metta Sutta. Okay, let us begin our Metta recital. You all can see on the screen. If you have a computer or cell phone, may all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds, whatever living beings there be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth. May all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her oath to protect only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving kindness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or when awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Friends, this is Buddha said this is called life, divine life that we live. When we practice metta, we become divine being at that moment, not simple ordinary humans. This is, in other words, the best kind of thought to bring loving, friendly feelings towards all living beings, especially this time when so many people are in pain and suffering, so many countries are involved in this, and we want to share our little might, our wisdom, our insight to help these individuals and countries practicing metta. We want to share our loving, friendly thought with all these beings. This is the beginning, the background of our practice. Then we develop also our insight by focusing mind on our breathing noticing inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling, and noticing the pause between inhaling and exhaling. When we develop our uh, metta, we can see how it affects our practice. Focus the mind on breathing. The breath has the beginning, middle, and end. And notice the pause in between inhaling and exhaling. And then notice the feeling of inhaling, perception of inhaling, attention we pay to inhaling, and consciousness. These are the five aggregates work together while we are breathing in and breathing out. As breath is changing, all these aggregates, feeling, perception, and consciousness also change. As we breathe out, they change, and we pay attention to these changes. They happen very naturally without our effort. And then the body becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. The breath becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. Mind becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. When these three, calm and relaxed and peaceful, then our hindrances, greed, resentment, restlessness and worry, sleepiness and drowsiness, and doubt fade away. As they fade away, new factors arise, such as letting go, generosity, metta, loving friendliness takes root at that moment, even for a fraction of a second. It becomes very strong and powerful. It at the background without any hatred. Metta grows very easily, and then compassion arises. When these three, letting go, metta, and compassion, work together, the mind is delighted, become even calmer and more peaceful. Then happiness arises and end in concentration. When this concentration arises, we can reflect using that concentration, reflect on every tiny little change that takes place in our body and mind. All factors involved in this practice are changing, very minute changes we can notice, and subtlest changes we can notice. So the mind goes deeper and deeper and deeper into the core of vipassana practice, that is seeing impermanence, non-self in us. With this, we continue our quiet practice, and we let you know the end. Dukkha pattaja nidukkha Bhaya pattaja nibbhaya Soka pattaja nisoka Hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. This is the most important wish that we have to make at this time when our mind is pure, clean, with free from greed, hatred and delusion, even for a very short period of time. When the mind is very, very pure and clean, that is the time for us to wish all beings to be happy and peaceful. When the mind is cluttered with defilements, we cannot make this kind of wish. It will not be effective. Only when the mind is pure and clean, with that pure state of mind, we can wish others peace and happiness. That is the strongest moment in our practice, the cleanest moment. With this, we want to uh, end the session of practicing meditation. Now I want to spend the rest of the time explaining the influxes or asavas. There are the next step of overcoming asavas is restraining. Restraining our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. It is just like putting a filter. Just these days it is very common sight in many places in the world. People are wearing filters called face mask. They wear them to prevent virus entering their body and exiting from them to others. We wear this kind of mask. It is invisible mask. What people wear these days are visible, material, rupa mask. We want to wear mental filters, masks. So at every faculty, every door, there are 6 gatekeepers holding these masks to prevent these influxes getting into our mind. These 6 gatekeepers are well trained, well educated, very skillful gatekeepers. They are holding this mask filter to prevent asavas getting into the mind. And that gatekeepers have only one name. That name is sati, mindfulness. And there are 4 types of restraints. We can use them. The one name is sati. It's called sati sangvara. So next name for the gatekeepers is virya sangvara. Virya has 4 steps. The gatekeepers prevent unwholesome, unarisen virus getting into our mind. That is, unarisen, unwholesome mental states getting into our mind through our eyes, ears, tongue, body and mind. That means virya, effort, makes every effort to prevent influxes getting into our mind. And then third is sila sangvara. Sila is observing moral principles. These are other gatekeepers to on our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. They are very moral, ethical. That means whenever the influxes are getting into our mind, we immediately become aware of our principles that we observe. Lay people observe the 5 precepts. When we break each precept, influxes get into our mind. Think about it very carefully. And that is called Sila Sangvara. Then the last is Jnana Sangvara, wisdom. We have to be wise to see the danger of these influxes. They intoxicate us. They make us confused. They make us bewildered and cannot see the truth. So these are called sangvara. The other is the effort, whenever they sneak into our mind, we immediately detect them and immediately throw them out of our mind. That is called abandoning, pahana, padhana. Padhana means effort, right effort. Then we arouse wholesome thoughts in our mind, wholesome states, uh, friendliness, compassion, generosity, appreciative joy, and so on. These are wholesome states to develop, and mindfulness and so on. Once they arouse in our mind, then we have to maintain, sustain, support them. So this is how we train ourselves to restrain ourselves. Now, this first of these asavas is kama asava. There are 4 main asavas: kamasava, bhavasava, avidyasava, ditthasava. They also are called ogha. Ogha means flood. Asava means influx. Asava intoxicate us. Ogha inundate us. Both are dangerous, whether we are intoxicated or drowned. Both are dangerous. And therefore, first asava is called kama asava. The second asava is called bhavasava. Also it is called ogha. Bhava is another wish. Bhava asava. That is another kind of influx that can make us very much attached to the existence, and that also is called bhava ogha. Then avijjasava and avijja ogha. Avijja is the one that I am explaining all along. Avijja is the root of asava, and avijja asava, when avijja is there, asava rises, as I mentioned earlier. Then last asava is ditta asava. Ditta means wrong views. When we have wrong views, it is very difficult for us to understand the Dhamma. And therefore, Noble Eightfold Path begins with right understanding to overcome wrong understanding or wrong view. So this is the second asava, the second way of overcoming asava. I mentioned there are 7 ways. I already explained 2. First is by seeing the truth, we overcome these asavas. Second is by restraining, observing precepts, reminding ourselves of the precept that we observe, reminding ourselves the danger of these influxes. And the third is called influxes to overcome by using. When we use, this is very strongly recommended to monastics, monks, nuns who observe monastic principles, and but this practice of overcoming influxes by using, this principle can extend even to lay people. Let me mention what we use to overcome our influxes. We use cloth. For monks called robes. They use robes with mindful reflection. We have a special passages to recite. Patisankha yoniso chivarang patisevami yavadeva sitasa patighataya unnasa patighataya dansamakravata tapasiring sapasampassana patighataya yavadeva hirikopena patichadanattang. Pardon me reciting in Pali because this is how we learn to use things using these words. I use, monks would say, or nuns would say, I use these robes mindfully, with mindful reflection, to ward off cold, heat, gadflies, mosquitoes, and to prevent wind and finally, to cover my nakedness. Only for this, the monks wear robes. It has no any particular fashion. We don't change it every year. New model doesn't come to the robes market. This model is 2,600 years old. The same model we use all our life. Why? To overcome, to prevent cold, heat, gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and so forth, and then to cover our naked. That is the purpose of wearing clothes, to simplify our life and to prevent asava of pride arising in our mind, greed arising in our mind. We are not looking forward to getting a brand new model of robe. We use the same robe in order to just wash it. When it is dirty, we wash it and use it. Then when we use uh, food, we recite it every day. I don't recite in Pali now because in order to save time, I say in English. We use this food to overcome our uh, uh, old hunger and not to introduce new hunger, a new pain, or rather overcoming the pain of hunger, not to introduce new pain of overeating. This food I use for not for play, not for game, not to put on weight, not to make myself beautiful. Uh, I use this food in order to maintain this body so that I can practice brahmacharya life. That means I can live according to the Noble Eightfold Path without too much discomfort. In order to maintain this body, I use this food. No any other purpose. Not just to build up my muscles or to make me look more attractive. I just use as medicine to continue this life so that I can practice the brahmacharya life, meaning practice the Noble Eightfold Path. Then after that we say that we repeat about, when we use robes also. That is, this food that we consume is made up of 4 elements. This body that consumes the food also made up of 4 elements. Uh, and this food is clean as it is. But when this body consumes it, it becomes unclean. That is very obvious. We eat very tasty, good, full of aroma, good of taste food. As soon as we put it into the mouth, that appearance, that good smell, all aroma, all will disappear. As soon as we put into the mouth, if for some reason we take it out of mouth, we even don't want to touch it. So quickly, that very pleasant food become unpleasant. These are reality. That means it is impermanent. So with this kind of reflection, we eat food. And there are 2 others, shelter and medicine. Shelter also we use to prevent us from getting cold and getting too hot or uh, being attacked by animals and from sun and rain to prevent from sun and rain and so forth. And medicine we use in order to overcome our pain caused by certain diseases. We take medicine. So with these reflections, we use material food, and that way we prevent our answers coming into the mind. So friends, this might be enough for this morning's talk, and there are 5 more ways of overcoming answers. I will speak on all of them starting again tomorrow morning. And once again, all these friends we do in order to deepen our understanding of Dhamma, deepen our practice of Dhamma, and cleansing our mind and developing our wisdom, insight, and metta and compassion, loving friendliness and compassion for all living beings. Especially these days, we all want to wish once again, let all beings who are suffering, all those who are supporting him, them to get rid of suffering, all of them be free from suffering and live long in very good health. Thank you for listening, and see you tomorrow morning. As I mentioned yesterday, this evening, Venerable Saddhajeewa, my student and Vice President of Bhavana, will continue evening session.